I did semester at sea, fall term of 2018. So in September, it's going to be 2 years. And it was definitely an experience of a lifetime. Um, I'll go into a little bit of the logistics of it, but if you have any questions, just type them in the chat. So some of the financial logistics, the tuition for just the room and board were depending on the kind of room. If you wanted a double, triple, single, from anywhere from $26,000 to $32,000. I had to meet with a lot of financial aid advisors, call their financial aid people. There were also visas that I had to pay for beforehand. So I went to China, Japan, and Ghana, and I had to pay for those visas beforehand, as well as India. And then later we got group visas to Myanmar and to South Africa, I think it was. And then I also had to take into consideration the flights to get there. So we disembarked from Germany. So I had to fly to Germany, as well as some vaccines and medications that I needed. So $200 for a yellow fever vaccine that wasn't covered with my insurance because it's not necessarily here, but I needed it for Ghana. And then I also needed tetanus and typhoid shot, malaria pills, for about 60 of them because we were in high malaria areas. And then OSU gives you like this travel package if you go with them and tell them you're studying abroad, and they have like pills for stomach aches, seasickness medicine, and different things depending on what you're doing. And then for educational things, obviously I didn't want to get behind in my studies, so I had to work with my advisors and see what classes I could take. The program that I was with, I think they have 60 courses that kind of vary depending on what program it is. Some that are consistent are like oceanography, business courses, and things like that. I was able to take 2 of my general science courses. I took oceanography, geology, a world literature course, and then they make you take a cultural sensitivity class, which was able to count as my back core cultural diversity. So they kind of briefed us about countries and country norms before we were able to actually go into the country, which I found really useful. And then I had to register through OSU as well before going abroad and pay their $300 OSU Go fee to kind of hold my place within the university. So it was a lot of money. Overall, it ended up being about $40,000. So I chose the cheapest room. They had a lot of programs like a Pell Grant match, a need-based grant, alumni scholarships, and so in parentheses is what I received from those specific ones. And then there are other scholarships, larger scholarships, more competitive, things like that, that I didn't receive, but were also available to other students. And then for OSU, they also have a lot of scholarship opportunities for study abroad specifically, as well as through their portal. So I got $2,500 for the College of Public Health that I just had them push it all towards fall term, outside scholarships, FAFSA, the OSU Abroad Scholarship, and then I'm actually a Ford Scholar, so they were able to pay most of the remaining costs. I took out a $5,000 loan, but for the experience that I got, it was really nothing. But yeah, I had friends that got $40,000 worth of loans, and they said it was still worth the experience. I don't know if I would take out that much big of a loan, but other people did. So after I figured out how I was going to pay for this project, this little adventure of mine, there were other things that I had to stress about. So my living situation, I didn't want to pay rent when I wasn't going to be there. So right there is my sister. And I actually made an agreement with her that I was going to pay her $150 a month, which is more or less what I would pay for a storage. And then when I came back in January, I was going to live with her. And so that's what we did. Dental checkups, because you're supposed to get one every 6 months. And so I had to do that beforehand. I had to go to the doctor to make sure I was healthy for my visas, job security. So I had to talk with my employers and see if I still had a job when I got back. And then I had to make time for my loved ones because I wasn't going to see them for 4 months, and there was no way for them to see me. It's not like they're going to go fly to China. And then packing was another thing that I stressed out a lot about because I wasn't going to be staying in one place. So I had to look what the temperature was like in a certain country at a certain time. So like in China, it was super duper cold, like practically snowing, below freezing. And so I had to pack my big jackets and stuff, but we also went to like a tropical island like Mauritius and Hawaii, so I had to take swimsuits as well. So I had to condense my clothes and take layers and stuff, so I didn't overpack because these luggages had to fit in these small little cabins. As well as snacks. I did not pack as much snacks as I would have liked. There was a few days there that I was really struggling and didn't have like any hot Cheetos, or I ran out of salsa. I took like 3 packs of salsa and I ran out. So for future references, I know how much I use in 4 months, but that isn't something necessarily that I tracked otherwise. But I also had to get toiletries, toothpaste, shampoo, things like that. And so then I had to think about in-country travel. So the ship pretty much, we swam, well, like kind of floated around, and then we would park or dock in a certain country, and they would give us anywhere from 4 to 6 days in the country. And in those 4 to 6 days, you can pretty much do whatever you want, come to the ship whenever you want, leave whenever you want, and you just have to be back on at dock time, or else the ship would leave you, supposedly. That's what they always said. I don't know if they actually left people, but that's what they said. And so my options were independent travel, or I can go through semester at sea. So some of the pros and cons. So through semester at sea was super expensive. So like to go see the Taj Mahal, I paid less than $250 when the program through semester at sea was either 1,000 or 2,200. Independent travel, I can travel with my friends, but through semester at sea, they had safety in numbers and they had guides and professionals and things like that. Independent travel, we also have more freedom and flexibility. So if I wanted to be like, oh, I'm just going to cancel and stay an extra night. But through semester at sea, they had refunded programs for unexpected cancellations. So when we were arriving to China, there was like a big crane in the way and we couldn't dock. So all of our plans got pushed back like 20 hours because we had to dock later. And so I did lose a couple trains that I had pre-purchased, that my friends who went through semester at sea didn't have to pay for those unexpected cancellations. Independent travel, people were also more around like the culture, as opposed to through SAS, it's more like protected and sheltered, and you're with the people that are from the ship and things like that. Accommodations for early departures and late returns. So there were the times, like for example, in the China when the crane was there, they let the people who were on semester at sea programs leave early because they were already running late and whatnot. And so that causes a lot less stress for the people. But for independent travel, there's also a lot of resilience and personal growth. Before going on this trip, if you would have told me that I was going to get like a whole country, my plans were going to shift, I would have freaked out, but it was fine. I chose independent travel because it was more affordable and that was the money that I had. There was no extra funds coming later or anything. So before going to Germany, I wanted to make this a trip of a lifetime. So I went to New York City for the first time with my mileage points on my credit card. Then I went to Iceland and the Wizarding World of Harry Potter in London. And then I finally made it to Germany. Direct flights, and what it cost me to get there jumping around was pretty much the same. So I was like, might as well take off a couple more things off the bucket list. So on the right is when I was in Iceland at waterfalls. There was waterfalls at every corner. And then here I was in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. It was amazing. So that was the fun, life-changing parts. So pre-voyage, I was in 4 countries within a week. Semester at sea goes to 4 continents and 11 different countries, 9 if you don't count the one that you dock in or the US. But everyone counted that because it sounds better to say you went to 11 than 9. In less than 3 months, I went to 3 different countries, Mexico, Canada. I went from 3 different countries to 15 countries. So I had gone to Mexico, where I'm currently at. And Canada, I went like 2 weeks before I left on my trip because I was like, how is it possible that I haven't been to Canada? I'm going to go on the other side of the world. So I did make a trip to Vancouver. And then I also went to go see 2 Modern World Wonders, which was amazing. There were some countries I didn't even know existed until I went there. And then there were some beautiful places that I didn't know existed until I went there. So on the picture on the right, I went to Black Sand Beach in Iceland, which is in the Game of Thrones. I don't know if any of you watched the Game of Thrones, but I sent a picture to my boss and she's like, that's where Game of Thrones is. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. I had no idea, but it was really cool. And so this is from London, the bridge that's always in a lot of movies, another waterfall in Iceland, the Harry Potter world, and then Blue Lagoon in Iceland as well. Those are the ones that I did before going on my trip. The rest of these pictures and that. Yeah. I went to Barcelona, Spain, and I went to Valencia, Spain. I'm a big Barcelona soccer fan, so this was like a dream come true. And the Sagrada Familia, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, but I'm sure Jose will talk about it enough in his presentation. And he was there for a lot longer than I was. I was there for 2 days in Barcelona and 2 days in Valencia. Absolutely beautiful. And then in Ghana, I did a homestay in a little village about 2 hours away from the main city that we stopped in. It's called Takoradi. And so the top left picture, we went to a school, and these kids were like so excited and singing in English, and I was really like, it was a lot of culture shock because I didn't know that they spoke English. To It was interesting to see their school system and the dynamic that they were in. So they didn't have enough teachers to be in every classroom because they're in a super rural area. So they had like 7 classrooms and 4 teachers, and they kind of rotated around. And you would walk into a classroom with no teachers, and the students were absolutely silent. It was mind blowing. Like if a teacher were to walk into one of my classes, even now in college, and nobody was in there, like people would be talking or whatever, but no, they were super respectful. On the top right is a slave castle that I went to. So they kind of do like tours through them so they can see the conditions that people were in, and it was absolutely horrifying. They didn't have any bathrooms. They had like a little row in on the floor that the water would pass through like once a month when it would rain or whatever. So no formal bathrooms and things like that. So that was hard to see, but it was interesting to see it myself and not just be told about it. And then on the bottom, we played soccer with one of their local teams, which is really fun and really cool. Yeah. I also crossed the equator, not only the equator, but the prime meridian at the same time. So if you cross the equator, you're considered a shellback. And then if you cross them both, you're considered an emerald shellback. I'm not sure why. That's like pirate sea lingo or something like that, is what they told me. And we had to kiss a fish, and they put slime on our head, and it was a whole thing. But yeah, that was fun, and very few people do that, so that was cool. Then we got to South Africa. South Africa is absolutely beautiful. The picture on the bottom is on top of Tabletop Mountain. So it's a mountain that's completely flat on the top. We were going to hike up on it, but we went on a wine tour the morning before, so we were not capable of climbing up this super steep mountain. I also went, the top right picture is where the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean meet. So it was kind of cool because one of them is cold and the other one is warm, so they weren't mixing. There was just like a line of difference between the waters, which you can kind of see like back there, but that's where they meet. And then I also went parachuting, which was really fun, off of Tabletop Mountain and landed on a beach, which was great. I also saw penguins and went snorkeling and saw a shark. It was absolutely terrifying. I thought it was following me. It probably wasn't, but when you see a shark, you get a little paranoid. I went to Mauritius, and that was only like a pit stop that we went to for to refuel on gas, so it wasn't an official stop, but it was beautiful, a beautiful tropical island, super warm, super sunny. I was able to meet with some of their university students, which was great. They told me about a time where their politics and such were so strict on what you can write that one of the authors that I met had to sell her books like with fruit. So she had a fruit basket, and then under she would sneak in her books, and they'd be like, "Oh, can I have the goods?" Like drug dealing, but with books. And I thought that was so crazy. But yeah, Mauritius is a tiny island outside of Madagascar. I definitely want to go again. Didn't know it existed. Absolutely beautiful, and the people were so nice. India. I went to India for 6 days. I got kicked out of their national monument. It was sad, but they didn't tell me in my cultural class that you weren't allowed to take out flags when you were in front of the Taj Mahal. Yeah, apparently they they find it disrespectful to bring out flags of different nationalities or flags of like different gang affiliations is kind of what they refer to it as in front of their historical monuments, which thinking about it, it does make sense. But yeah. And so they took our phones and they were searching through it and making sure we didn't have any pictures with flags, and then they escorted us out. Aside from that, it was beautiful. That was right as we were leaving, so I had already seen it, walked up to it and everything. I also rode on an elephant, saw more waterfalls, and then on the top right, it was like a tea farm, I think is what it was, which is really cool. We stayed in little cabin-like hotels, which was fun. I also went to Myanmar or Burma, and I went to these pagodas, and it's like a little village that people just would go and worship there. It was super interesting to see. To be honest, I didn't experience this country as well as I should have. I found this Mexican restaurant, and after this, I had been like 3 months without being home, and so I went to the Mexican restaurant every single day, and I was so happy. I was there twice a day because I missed my food. And so yeah, this country was definitely kept me sane because it prevented me from severe homesickness, but it was also beautiful. I also went to Vietnam. I visited a small town outside of Ho Chi Minh City, and then in Ho Chi Minh City, which is where we docked, I was able to visit the Vietnam U.S. War Museum. And so viewing those sorts of things from the other people's side is so different and so interesting how their perspective was. I also got some coffee from there because apparently it's some of the best coffee. I don't drink coffee, so I gave it to my mom, but she really liked it. I went to the beach. Yeah, did some cool stuff in Vietnam. And then I went to China. I went to the Great Wall of China. I went down a slide that they had there that Michelle Obama also went down, which I thought was pretty cool. And then on the right, I went to go see the warriors that they had statues of, that one of their like emperors or rulers at the time wanted to be protected even when he was dead. So he had people make all these statues, and they're super lifelike. Like not a single one is the same. They have different facial expressions. They have facial hair. They have arm hair. They're super duper detailed, even after being in the ground for a long time. And then I went to Japan. I did go to Kyoto, Japan, but I was only there for a few days. I went to go see a lot of things. I went to Nara and saw the deer as well. I went to the Universal Studios in Japan. But yeah, Kyoto was definitely beautiful. I didn't go to Tokyo because they said that it was just like any other big city, and Kyoto was their capital for 100 years, so it was super cultured, and that's why I chose to stay there locally instead of going up to Tokyo where most people went. And then finally, I went to Hawaii. Hawaii was beautiful. It was actually a field trip for one of my classes. We had to go snorkeling in Hanauma Bay, and it was 25% of my class score was to go snorkeling in Hawaii. So
I'm wondering how you fly from New York City to Iceland for $100.
So there's a program in Iceland that they want tourists to go. So in the summertime and things like that, when they really want to increase their tourism, I went at the end of August. So it's a pretty deadish travel season. And so it was super cheap, and it was only one way. So
was it hard balancing classes with all your travel?
No, because a lot of the professors know that all of our interest is on the travel, and a lot of theirs were too. So we had like open book, open note, midterms and finals, and we had group projects and things like that. And we also didn't have access to internet, so they didn't require a lot of rigorous things because we did a lot of the studying on the ship and there's no internet there.